What is up, everybody? I am back on the channel. Haven't posted in a while because I've been finishing up my first semester of graduate school, getting a PhD in philosophy, if you didn't know. And I'm just driving home right now, so don't mind the noise. I figured I would just, while I was driving, give a little bit of a quick update on how I've been and some future plans for the channel, just a little bit of reactions, reflections on the first semester. So basically, I'll start out with just saying that it was a lot of work the first semester. So I took 4 classes, 2 philosophy classes, and then 2 classes on teaching. And the 2 classes on teaching were fairly easy, just a little bit of work, some busy work, stuff like that. I got a little bit out of them. They were okay. The 2 philosophy classes I took a seminar, so a graduate seminar, which is about 4 to 7 people. And we went through the Republic. And then the other class I took was a class on Plato and the Sophists. So we went through the dialogue, the Protagoras, we went through the Phaedrus, Xenophon's Memorabilia, and the dialogue, the Sophist. And so the Republic class, I'll start with that. That was interesting because it was graded based upon 2 long, term papers. And so I wrote my first one on Anaximander, and then I wrote my second one on Plato and the Really Real. And I ended up doing okay, not my best work. I put in a lot of hours into research. I struggled with the papers quite a bit. And I ended up getting B's on both of them because they just weren't up to academic standards in regards to publishing. So the teacher that I had really stressed how he wants us to publish. And I had never written an academic paper before. I've written a writing sample, I've written lots of stuff, but a publishable quality piece I had never written before, and I had no idea how. And so that's why I didn't get A's on those 2 papers. And so one of the criticisms I got, among others, was that I just made too many arguments. Literally, I made too many arguments in my Anaximander paper. So I made argument after argument to try and prove my conclusion, and the teacher said, well, you can't do that. You have to stick with making fewer arguments so there are fewer places for people to attack you in the secondary literature. Basically, what he means by that is that when you're writing a publishable piece, it's got to be the claims have to be just very weak. They have to be, you really have to cover yourself a lot. I don't really know. I don't know. It was pretty frustrating looking back on it, and I don't know. I thought it was some of my best work, but it just wasn't publishable quality, I guess. And by that, it's not it's just the way that things are written. And so I don't really know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to go meet up with him again and just talk about what does that mean? I'm not sure, because I read academic articles, and I really didn't think what I wrote was that much different than the stuff that I have been reading. For instance, I just read an article on existential inertia, and it was just shit tons of arguments after shit tons of arguments, and lots of them were short, questionable, and that was published in Sophia, and I'm not sure. But anyway, we'll put that aside, because that was probably the most negative part of the classes. And then my Plato class was really interesting because the teacher gave an extremely novel interpretation of the Protagoras, Phaedrus, Sophist, and Xenophon's Memorabilia. That class, though, was a lot of work. I'm talking hours upon hours upon hours upon hours. Probably the hardest class I've ever taken. I don't know my grade at all yet, so I really have no idea. I could end up with an A-, I could end up with a B-. It'll be somewhere in there. But we had to basically write 2 short papers where we just focused on isolating an argument and critiquing it. Then we had a midterm, a philosophy exam midterm, which was very difficult. We had a longer paper, and then we had a final. And what's interesting is the exams. Those were basically, the final was cumulative. And so the midterm was similar, but only with the first 2 dialogues. But basically what you would do is the teacher gave you 3 arguments. Like he said, write out these 3 arguments from anywhere in any of the dialogues. You just had to memorize like all the arguments and all the dialogues. And then he had us write just a ton of exam questions. So I ended up writing about 25 pages of notebook paper for the final exam. It took about 3 to 4 hours. And it was extremely difficult. I learned a lot in prep for it, and I learned a lot in doing it. So maybe one day I'll talk about what I actually learned, because I don't want to get into that. It was an extremely novel interpretation, though. The basic idea, I'll just give you this, was that the Protagoras is an argument, sorry. And Protagoras is an argument for the transcendent forms. The Phaedrus is an argument using the forms. And the Sophist is portraying this picture of reality in which being and non-being, truth, falsity, rest, motion, are sameness and otherness are all intertwined very intimately. So it was extremely interesting class. I got a ton out of it. I loved it, but it was tough. And then other than that, I was a teaching assistant for Intro to Ethics, which was extremely interesting. It was really interesting because the students were almost my age. I'm barely 22, and there were some 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds in the class, and it was a lot of fun. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I looked forward to it every week. I taught the Friday sections on my own, so I would lecture and have group discussions on my own for 3 hours on Fridays, and then Monday and Wednesday I sat in the lectures and listened. I had office hours. I did a ton of edits. I worked with students on their papers. I worked with them one-on-one to help them through the readings. I proctored exams. I have done all the grading. And so it was just an absolute great time. I met a ton of great people, made some friends in the class, probably lifelong friends. I mean, just such great people. I was really excited. I could talk a lot about that. If you want to hear about my TA experience, I can talk about that in another video. Just drop a comment below. But I would say that my favorite thing was just, I'm a big guy. I'm big into hearing people's stories. So I loved just interacting with people, seeing where they come from, seeing what their thoughts on philosophy are, seeing what their favorite readings are, reading their essays. Some of them wrote about their life experiences. I loved it. I loved interacting with the students. I made an impact on a few of them. A lot of them came up to me after the class and said that they loved everything I did, that I changed their perspective on the world. Some of them said that I completely changed their life. And so it really brought me a lot of joy doing this. There were some struggles though. There were definitely a lot of periods teaching that are hard. It's difficult to see students fail. It's difficult to see students not apply themselves. It's also extremely difficult to see students get nihilistic about philosophy, which happened a little bit. But there's nothing you can do, and you just got to do your best. So that's what I focused on. And let's see, what else? So that's basically my reflections on grad school. I'll say this, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I'm going to do for a minute with this channel. So I will say that next semester I will be much more prepared. You didn't know what to expect. I had no idea what to expect first semester. I had no idea what study methods of mine would have continued to be successful. So I will say this. Next semester I'll be in 3 classes: political philosophy, philosophy of law, and probably feminist theory. And then I'll be TAing either cognitive science or an intro class again. And I will say that to be successful in graduate school, you have to step up the work. You need to put in double the amount of time you did in undergrad, which I started doing at the end of the semester, so that was helpful. And then you have to just write commentaries. You have to write commentaries on the texts that you are reading. So that is where I fucked up. I did not realize I had to do that. I thought that note-taking and just reading the text would be sufficient. It's not it at all. So looking back on it, what I should have done is recorded the professor's lectures and then gone back after class, wrote those out, transcribed those, and then wrote a brief commentary on the sections we had to read for class, like in the Sophist or Protagoras and Phaedrus. So next semester, when I'm reading Dworkin, Hart, Aquinas, etc., that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to record the professor's lectures, I'm going to transcribe it, and then I'm going to go back and write my own commentary on the sections we had. That's how I'm going to study. that's going to be super, super helpful. And then also focusing on the arguments. That's the most important, is just isolating the arguments, critiquing, counter-critiquing, counter-critiquing, counter, and so on and so on. You just got to do it. It's all about the arguments. And that's how I kind of fashioned my writing this semester, which is extremely helpful. And I have to thank my teachers for that. So that's that. If you want to hear more, just drop the comments below what you'd like to hear. I can touch on it, whatever. Make a longer video. Maybe I'll do an Ask Me Anything or a Q&A sometime if you all are interested in that. But anyway, as for this channel, let me just say a brief thing. I am on Christmas break right now, or I literally just left, and so I'm gonna be grinding, doing some studying. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna focus on, I need to make some more After Virtue videos. I'm sorry, one of my students took my copy and she still has it, so I'm just gonna have to use an online PDF version. And I want to get through that. I really do, and I'm going to get through it. We're going to do that. We're going to continue the After Virtue series. It may take a while, but we're going to do it. And so, aside from that, though, I want to take after Norris Clark and kind of engage in this creative retrieval of classical metaphysics. And that's been my plan for a while. I just haven't gotten around to doing videos on it yet, but I've got outlines and stuff ready. So what I want to do is I want to make a few videos this Christmas break on Parmenides and my interpretation through some scholars of Parmenides, and then get into maybe some talk of Plato if I have time, but most likely work through a couple propositions from Proclus. I'm really thinking about doing my dissertation on Proclus if I stay in academia, and I would like to kind of work through some of that on a whiteboard or something, throw it up on the channel. And then aside from that, I want to make a couple videos on a church father, probably Athenagoras. So get ready for that. So get ready for some stuff on McIntyre After Virtue, get ready for some stuff on Proclus, get ready for some stuff on Parmenides, and then probably on Athenagoras. And then if I have time, and if I get around to it, I may be TAing for cognitive science and artificial intelligence. If I do that, if they assign me to that, I will be making some videos on philosophy of mind, John Searle, Jerry Fodor, Edward Fazer. So that's not guaranteed, I can't promise that, but again, that's the plan for the next couple weeks, next couple months. Get ready for it. If you're interested, drop a comment below, gives me some motivation. I love hearing what you all think. And if you're interested in other stuff, drop it below, but that's what's up. And I'm gonna get back to driving home, grab some lunch, and get on the grind. I'll probably hit the library tomorrow, do some grading, start working on some outlines, and then have a video up. Let's say I'll have a video up hopefully within the next 48 hours. And we'll see what that's on. It'll be a surprise. But 48 hours, I'm making a promise right now. I'm going to have a video up, and y'all are going to love it. So enjoy the day. Have fun. Drop comments below. Interact with me. Email me if you want. And I'll see ya.